Okay, 10:05 as promised, we will start with the XEVMPD webinar. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining. To start with, we will start with a couple of housekeeping notes. So as you already know, this session is going to be recorded and we will make it available in the EMA corporate website, and it will be also available in our YouTube channel. You know that we are using a Slido in order to allow participants to ask questions, give also their input in the different surveys that we will launch at the end of the webinar. For your interest, so interaction with a Slido is voluntary. You may opt to be anonymous, but if you choose to use a Slido, then you give your consent to the processing of your personal data as it is explained in the EMA data privacy statement that we have for a Slido. Just a couple of notes on Slido. Here you have the QR code that you can scan in order to log into Slido. You can also use the hashtag that you can see on your screen. You can use the QR code or join via slido.com and then including the hashtag that you have in the screen. You can send your questions there, and you can also upvote the questions that you want to be answered. Please check if there is any question that has already been asked and just upvote this one instead of asking the same question again and again, so we can prioritize then the answers. At the end of the session, there will be a Q&A. We are trying to address most of the questions in writing throughout the session, but we will, at the end of the webinar, address verbally the unanswered and top voted questions. We are expecting a high volume of questions, so we might not be able to reply to everything, also because we might not have the relevant people in the webinar to address them if there are questions related to other teams, but we will try to address them by the end of the day or during the week, and we can also use those questions to enrich our FAQ documents. If you have any questions or any specific issue or cases, please, you are allowed to raise a service desk ticket, and we will investigate your specific issue if needed. This presentation is going to be available in the SPOR portal document section and also in the EMA events webpage. There is already, the first version is available in the EMA events webpage, but we will update if necessary after the webinar if there is anything that we need to update. As we said again, the recordings will be available at the EMA YouTube channel and also in the EMA events webpage. So, today we have the product management service, the XEVMPD for marketing authorization holders webinar. Throughout this week, we have had the different SPOR webinars. So we have already had the one for the SPOR data governance and also the ones for RMS, SMS, and OMS. And today and tomorrow, we have the specific webinars for XEVMPD. Today, it is related to marketing authorization holders, and tomorrow, we will have the one that is specific for sponsors. Monday next week, we will have the SPOR API webinar. So you here can see the links, you can register, and we hope to see you there tomorrow and also next week. For today's webinar, which are the goals that we have for this session? So first of all, we want to recap which are the XEVMPD submissions requirements and processes, specifically for authorized medicinal products. We also want to share with you some XEVMPD status overview. Something that is important and it's very trendy these days is the relationship between XEVMPD and PMS. So we will have a specific section on this. And also we will have a section where we will remind marketing authorization holders about the actions that they need to take on their XEVMPD data. So moving to the agenda, We will have the welcome notes that we are having now. We will give you the instructions on the XEVMPD pre-submission requirements, which are the mandatory reporting requirements for XEVMPD and the submission process. Then we will focus on data stewardships for authorized medicinal products. We will give you a couple of details about the XEVMPD statistics, where you can find all the documentation and help in relation to XEVMPD. There is also a section on XEVMPD and what is the relationship with PMS, EAF, also ESMP, etc. We will have a break here. We have 10 minutes, but depending on how much time do we have, we will maybe extend it a bit or reduce it. We will let you know. And by the end of the webinar, we will have the XEVMPD status updates, the key takeaways and conclusions, and last but not least, we will have the Q&A session, as I explained before, to answer the most unanswered and top-rated questions. So let's start from the beginning with the introduction to XEVMPD and the pre-submission requirements. So, as you already know, XEVMPD, it's also known as Article 57 database, is the centralized source of information for authorized and also unauthorized medicines. Authorized medicinal product data is submitted and maintained to XEVMPD by marketing authorization holders. Unauthorized products, also known as development products, are submitted and maintained in XEVMPD by sponsors. Substance records are submitted by EMA data stewards from the SMS team. Then the MA holders and the sponsors organizations are submitted and maintained in XEVMPD by marketing authorization holders and sponsors. And the referential terms are submitted and maintained in XEVMPD by the RMS data stewards for authorized medicinal products and by sponsors when we talk about the development terms only. So again, for this webinar, we will focus on authorized medicinal products. Tomorrow we have a specific webinar for the development and the sponsors. So, which are the pre-submission requirements? What do you need to have in order to be able to submit your data to XEVMPD? So, first of all, your XEVMPD can be used by all organizations that are registered in EudraVigilance for medicinal product reporting. That means that marketing authorization applicants can access EV, also marketing authorization holders, sponsors, and national competence authorities. When we talk about CROs, so clinical research organizations, but also IT vendors, third-party service providers, etc., they need to be registered in EudraVigilance under a marketing authorization holder or a sponsor profile. An independent registration for this type of organizations is not allowed in EudraVigilance, and they can only submit information on behalf of a specific marketing authorization holder or a sponsor, which is already registered in EudraVigilance. And they need to use the marketing authorization holder or a sponsor's organization ID. It is important for you to know that all these organizations must be registered in OMS, and then the individual users must be registered in the EMA account management portal. In this slide, we have a small diagram where we are trying to represent how this access for EudraVigilance is managed. So first of all, what you need to do is one person of the organization should attend the XEVMPD training and need to obtain the notification of successful completion of this XEVMPD knowledge evaluation. An important note, this person might not be the QPPV, so it's not a requirement, it is not mandatory for this first person to be the QPPV. Once this person has the successful notification of the completion of the knowledge evaluation, then this unaffiliated user should register via the EMA account management portal, which is also known as IAM. Once this person is registered, it is important that the organization is registered in OMS. If the organization that where this person belongs to is not registered in OMS, then you first need to create the organization, and then this user can request the QPPV role for that organization in IAM. Once this is granted, they can request the registration with EudraVigilance for medicinal product reporting, and then additional users can register via IAM, and this way the organizations and the users will be registered. We have said that the first step for this submission requirement is the XEVMPD training. So the XEVMPD training is available in two different formats. We have the virtual training course that is run by DIA. These are different courses. We have courses for marketing authorization holders and also different courses for sponsors. This is a paid training course. There is a trainer, and the knowledge evaluation is performed at the end of the training. And there is no limit on the number of participants from one specific organization. We also have another format. We call it the e-learning training. We also have separate courses for marketing authorization holders and sponsors. This is a free training that is based on self-study. So you can register for this knowledge evaluation via the EMA service desk, but only 5 people from the same organization can register via the e-learning. Then the notification of successful completion of this knowledge evaluation is requested from one person during the registration in EB. And it is important here to know that the holder of this notification can train other users from the same organization as part of the internal knowledge transfer. So this is regarding the registration process. What do you need to do, the training, then register in EB, etc. If we move to the XEVMPD process, here we want to talk about which are the different processes and activities that we performed at EMA. So on the left side, you have the SPOR user who is submitting the authorized medicinal products to XEVMPD, and we have different activities that are performed by different people. So on the left side, you can see the activities that are doing the EMA data stewards. So these people is doing different activities on data stewardship. First of all, we do data services. What that mean is that we perform proactive data curation. So we do the authorized medicinal product validation. We also do data cleansing and corrections. And if we are not able to validate a specific medicinal product, then we contact the marketing authorization holders via the follow-ups. What we also do is data publication. So every month, we make public a list of all the products that are authorized in XEVMPD, where we share the pharmacovigilance contact details. As part of the data stewardship, we have also launched this year a new service that is called the data mapping services to the MCAs. This is something new. We have a specific slide later because we want to explain what we are doing. But in a nutshell, what we are doing is helping MCAs to map the records that we have in XEVMPD and therefore in PMS against their national databases, because this will help them with the mapping exercise and then with different projects such as ESMP. The EMA data stewards are also responsible for the customer service. So here is where we reply to all the different requests of information, requests for services, or technical issues that marketing authorization holders can have and that they submit via service desk. As part of the activities that are managed by the business lead or the product owner, we have the data quality management. So what we do as part of these services is we try to do quality control of the activities that are performed by the EMA data stewards. So we do, for example, sampling of data, and we check that the activities that are performed by the data stewards are correct, and the quality of these services is high enough based on our standards. We also do data profiling, so we are trying to monitor and investigate across the entire set of data that we have around the different amount of products that we have. We try to do monitoring, we try to identify common issues, and try to have the best data quality possible in XEVMPD. We also have, again, this quality assurance. So we try to identify the root causes of the different issues, and we also try to improve the processes. So, for example, this year we have improved the validation process because we are receiving more data and more records. So we try to improve the validation process. As part of the product owner and the business lead activities, we also have the service management. So we need to do service coordination with the data governance, and also helping the IT colleagues to deliver different upgrades to the system, etc. We also do performance management. So we need to be in charge of the invoicing, the KPIs reporting, and also the customer satisfaction. If we now move to the data stewardships for the authorized medicinal products in XEVMPD, so you know that we have different mandatory reporting requirements for XEVMPD for marketing authorization holders. Those requirements are based on the legislation. We have the Article 57.2 of the regulation. We also have the EEA agreement and the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. So these are the pieces of legislation that we are using to request data on XEVMPD. Based on this legislation, you know that marketing authorization holders are required to submit to XEVMPD information on medicinal products for human use that are authorized under a national, an MRP, a DCP, or a centrally authorization procedure for products in Europe, EEA countries, and also Northern Ireland. For new authorized medicinal products, this data must be submitted not later than 15 calendar days from the date of the authorization. And then any update, any amendment to the terms of the marketing authorization, so for example, if there has been a variation, a transfer, a renewal, a suspension, a withdrawal of this specific marketing authorization, this updates, these amendments must be submitted not later than 30 calendar days from the date of which these amendments have been authorized. You know that we are talking about authorized medicinal products, but XEVMPD also allows the submission of other registrations. So if you are a holder of a different registered product, you may submit this information in XEVMPD. So we are talking here, for example, about the herbal medicinal products. We are talking about homeopathics, the named patient use, and the EU distribution procedure. If you have any product on parallel distribution or imported medicinal products, you can submit them as well on a voluntary basis. Medicinal products that are authorized outside the EA or that have followed a non-EU procedure can also be submitted to XEVMPD. And last but not least, products without a marketing authorization in the EU or EEA, which are approved under an emergency use, compassionate use, or other national schemas. So all these different registered products that I have explained here can be submitted on a voluntary basis to XEVMPD. What is mandatory is to have a QPPV. So there is a legal obligation from this directive 2001/83 EC, and there's this Article 103 that says that the marketing authorization holder shall have permanently and continuously at his disposal an appropriately qualified person that is responsible for pharmacovigilance. So, what does it mean in XEVMPD? MA holders must have an EU QPPV that is registered in EudraVigilance at the headquarter level. Then you can also have trusted deputies or additional QPPVs at national levels, and they can also be registered. This QPPV must be referenced in the relevant authorized medicinal products in XEVMPD. So all your EV codes, all your authorized medicinal products must refer the QPPV code. And this has to be obviously a valid QPPV code that is referring a current QPPV. If there is any change on the QPPV as a person, then you must nominate a new QPPV within 10 calendar days, and you need to update all your authorized medicinal products in XEVMPD with the reference to this new QPPV immediately and not later than 30 calendar days. Something similar happens with the pharmacovigilance system master file location. There is a guidance here where you can find all the informations, but since the 2nd of July 2015, the marketing authorization holders must submit the pharmacovigilance system master file location to Article 57. We will assign a PSMFL EV code, and this EV code should be referred in the relevant authorized medicinal products. As well as in the QPPV, if there is any change to the PSMFL information, this has to be reflected in XEVMPD immediately and not later than 30 calendar days since those changes apply. Once we receive the information, which is the process for the initial submission of authorized medicinal products in XEVMPD? From the left, you can see that here we have the authorizing body, so we can have EMA or the national competence authorities approving a medicinal product. So as we have said, you have 15 calendar days from the date of the authorization where the marketing authorization holder must submit this data in XEVMPD. You need to insert the authorized medicinal product information. You need to include who is the marketing authorization holder, which is your PSMFL, who is the QPPV, etc. You also need to insert and make a reference to supporting documentation. In this case, is the SMPC or the package leaflet, because this is the documents that we will use. These are the documents that we will use for the validation of the data that we receive. So once you submit the data, we have, first of all, a technical validation that is performed by the system. There are a couple of documents that you can see here, like Chapter 3.1 and Chapter 3.2. So the system is making sure that we have the business rules are met, and also the mandatory data is provided in your message. Once this technical validation is successful, you then receive a first and a second XEVPRM acknowledgement in your system. Once this technical validation is done and is passed, we will receive the product in XEVMPD, and within 2 weeks, the EMA data stewards will validate this information, and we will perform what we call the content validation and standardization. So what we do is we validate the data that we have received against the documents that you have attached in your submission. So we have the SMPC or the package leaflet, and based on the Chapter 3.2 rules and also the data quality control methodology, we are making the content validation and standardization. Once the EMA data steward has received the product, we perform this content validation. And then if we go from the top, if the product entry is validated, either with changes or without changes that we have made as part of this validation, then the MA holder will receive the validation in what we call the third acknowledgement. It's an XEVPRM message where we say, okay, your product has been validated. We have made changes to these fields or if we have not made any change, then you will receive a third acknowledgement saying no changes have been performed to your product, but it has been validated. Once the product is validated by the EMA data stewards, then these records are visible to other users in XEVWeb. All the information is visible except for the master file location and the QPPV details. And we show these products because they are there to support pharmacovigilance activities. One important message here is that if you review the third acknowledgement and you disagree with the changes that we have performed as part of this validation or standardization, or if you have additional questions, you can submit a ticket via the EMA Service Desk portal. This is what happens if we are able to validate the product, but sometimes we are not able to validate the product because either the SMPC is wrong, or there is missing information in the SMPC, or the SMPC is missing. There are different reasons. Then what we do is we contact the marketing authorization holder. We send an email to the QPPV, and this is what we call the follow-up communication. These are emails sent on a weekly basis. We send emails to the QPPVs either if the pharmacovigilance system master file location is missing or is wrong, if there is an old QPPV referred to their products, or also if we are not able to validate the record because the SMPC is missing, or there is a duplicate, or any other reason that is making us impossible to validate the record. If you receive this follow-up communication, you need to amend the product as required, and then you will have, again, between 15 or 30 calendar days, depending on the type of change. Okay. This is for the initial submission of a marketing an authorized medicinal product, but then we also validate the updates and the amendment that you submit to your marketing authorization product. So if an amendment is authorized either by EMA or by a national competent authority, you have, as we have already said, 30 calendar days from the date when the amendments were authorized. In this case, you need to update, invalidate your authorized medicinal product in XEVMPD. You need to follow the different processes that we have described in Chapter 3.2. And you need to also insert and make reference to the supporting documentation, because we need to be able to validate this update. Again, there is a first technical validation. You will receive a first and a second acknowledgement that is generated within 24 hours since the submission. And then we have to perform again the content validation and standardization. But in this case, for updates, for amendments, we try to validate products within 2 years since the last validation. So we are not validating all the updates that you are submitting. We validate all the inserts, but due to the high amount of updates that we receive in XEVMPD, it makes us impossible to validate every update. So what we try to do is revalidate all the products within 2 years since the last time we validated a product. Something that we do for centrally authorized products, because we have the information internally at EMA, is we perform regular checks for the submission of centrally authorized products. So first off, this is what we call the CAP submission compliance check. And we make sure that new centrally authorized products that have been approved are also submitted to XEVMPD. So we cross-check with our internal database that you know is called SciAmed. We cross-check that the number of presentations that we have in our system are also the same as the one that we have in XEVMPD. We include this information in what we call the EMA scientific group table and also in the European pharmacovigilance issues tracking tool if the data has not been included. And if the centrally authorized product data is not in XEVMPD, has not been submitted by the marketing authorization holder within the 15 calendar days since we authorized the product, then the QPPV is contacting and we tell them, hey, please submit your product. It has been authorized more than 15 days ago, so please submit your information to XEVMPD. We also do the same with transferred, renewed, revoked, and withdrawn and expired centrally authorized products. So what we do is we check in XEVMPD if the records that we have has been transferred to the new marketing authorization holder, if there has been a renewal or any type of invalidation, such as a revoked, a withdrawn, or an expired MA, if this data has been submitted within 30 calendar days since the amendment. Again, if this information has not been updated in XEVMPD, then we contact the QPPV asking them to please update their records in XEVMPD. What we also do is the data publication. So as you know, every month we make public a list of medicinal products that are authorized in EU and also in the EEA countries. You have here the link is an Excel with all the medicinal products that we have in our database in XEVMPD, because we need to share marketing authorization holders' pharmacovigilance contact details, such as the phone number and the email. You know that we are we have implemented now PMS, and we also have reporting capabilities there. The idea is that we will replace the publication of this monthly report by a dynamic report in PMS when we have this functionality in the PLM portal. So for the moment, we will keep this publication from XEVMPD. We will be generating the Excel every month, but at some point, the idea is that we want to get rid of this publication in Excel and be able to put this information in a dynamic report in the PLM portal. We also used to make it public every quarter, the XEVMPD control vocabulary list that we had from SMS, RMS, etc. But now this publication was discontinued in 2023 because now this information is available in the different SPOR services. So you can go to SMS and you can find the list of substances. You can go to RMS and you can see the list of terms and also the mapping of those terms to XEVMPD. What we also do in terms of data publication is ad hoc updates of documentation. So every time there is a new update, something that we need to change on chapter 3.2, for example, or on the FAQ documents, we update those documents and we make them public as well. Something additional on the EMA data stewards activities is, as I explained you before, is the EMA support to NCAs. This is a new services that we are running to support NCAs with the data mapping exercise in order to facilitate the initial implementation and the mapping of national products against PMS data. This is a one-off service that is based on EMA capacity, also budget availability, and is executed in the order of submission. So what we are doing is we have requested NCAs to send us a list of all their products with national IDs, with the package information. And what we will be trying to do is to help them map this data that they have in their national systems against the data that we have in PMS. This is not a continuous EMA service. It's just, as I said, a one-off service. And the idea is that NCAs will have to implement the process to maintain these data mappings in the future. So every time you insert a new pack size, for example, or a new medicinal product in XEVMPD, it will land in PMS, and then NCAs should have a process in place where they can identify this product in PMS and they can perform this mapping. We are hosting monthly webinars. They are only for NCAs. And we are hosting this series of follow-up webinars from October until the end of 2025. We want to keep them updated on the progress that we are doing on this reporting mapping activity. How many NC days have submitted the data? How are we doing with the mapping? Is there any issue that we have identified, etc., etc.? This is why we are having those monthly webinars. We also want to exchange lessons learned from different NCAs. So if there is an NCA that has implemented or is going to implement any kind of process, we want to give them a space where they can discuss these different lessons learned, tips, etc., that they can share. And also, obviously, to give them a space to ask us different questions, and we will have these Q&A sessions to address the NCA's data mapping queries. Which are the benefits of this new exercise and these new services that we have implemented? Well, first of all, we think it will reduce the NCIE burden, and it will facilitate the initial implementation and mapping of the national product data from their systems to the PMS data. We also want to continue support and enhance the collaboration through the NCA's mapping activities. And we also want to increase the transparency of product data mapping efforts that are performed by EMA and also by NCAs. Let's continue in this webinar with the XEVMPD statistics. So we have gathered here some statistics that we have for XEVMPD. As you can see here, we have the data from different years, so 2021, 23, 22, 23, and also data until Q2 of this year. You can see on gray that the trend is that the amount of products validation has been increased this year. We only have data for until Q2, but if we see the trend is that we are receiving additional records in XEVMPD. We believe that this is due to the new records that we are receiving because people and marketing authorization holders are submitting new products to support EAF, so homeopathics, herbal medicinal products, etc. But also we are receiving additional EV codes for packages because that was a request that we made this year in order to support the ESMP. So there is a trend that we are seeing that we are receiving additional EV codes. And in relation to the service desk tickets, the numbers are more or less consistent with the previous year. So we are not experiencing a huge increase or a big increase in the tickets that we are receiving. In relation to the overall compliance, you can see that until Q2 2024, the overall compliance is an 80%. Is it still within the target score that we have on our KPIs? But you can see that it has decreased a bit if we compare it with previous years. This is data only for until Q2 2024, so we expect that during Q3 and Q4 that might increase a bit. But the explanation on why it has decreased a bit is because we have seen that we need a bit more time to reply to the development medicinal product request tickets. And also more incidents are requiring more than 5 days to be solved. So we have a KPI that says that incidents should be closed within 5 days. But we have seen that we need a bit more time to close some of those tickets. The reason of that is because now XEVMPD is connected with different systems. So it's connected with RMS, with OMS, also regarding the connection with CTIS, with PMS. XEVMPD is feeding a lot of systems. It's also being fed by different systems. So that is increasing the complexity. And that's why we need a bit more time to resolve those incidents, because we need to contact different people. But again, the overall compliance is still within our KPIs, and we hope that during Q3 and Q4 this year, this will increase. This is a useful slide also. We wanted to tell you about the documentation overview and where you can find help and documents to be able to follow all the different requirements for XEVMPD. So if we start from the bottom left part of the slide, you have the EV restricted area. In this area, you have a lot of information on how to access the EV services. So how to access EV Web, how to access the XEVMPD export and the bulk update tools that are really, really helpful if you want to export a big amount of data, or if you want to do bulk updates to your products. There is also this user support section where you can find all the technical documentation related to XEVMPD. Then we have the EMA account management portal. Here you can find all the guidances on how to obtain access to EMA. So not only XEVMPD, but also to SPOR. You have there all the information that is needed. You can create a new EMA account and request the SPOR user role. You can find all the information in the EMA account management portal. We also have the EMA corporate website. In the EMA corporate website, you can have an overview of all the reporting requirements for marketing authorization holders. You have the links to the guidance documents, to chapter 3.2, to all the documents that are related to XEVMPD, and also how to register to EUDRA Vigilance for the product reporting. We have a training, the different training opportunities. As I explained before, you have the EMA info channel that where you can find all the videos of SPOR webinars with different tips and tricks, and also questions that have been raised by different users. And you have the XEVMPD training website. In this webpage, you can see all the available training courses, the training documents, the step-by-step guides. You have everything that is needed for, to get the training certificate. And last but not least, and as you know, we have the EMA service desk. So if you need additional information, if you need support with the XEVMPD data management, if you have technical issues, if you have any specific request, you can raise a ticket on EMA service desk, and we will try to reply and give all the information that we can through this channel. If we continue with the next part of the webinar, we have the XEVMPD and the relationship between XEVMPD, PMS, EAF, and ESMP. So, as you can see in this slide, this is very important because on the left side, you can see that industry is submitting data to SMS, RMS, and OMS. And this information is already used by industry and NCAs, and as you can see on the top, it is used by different systems. So, for example, IAM is using OMS data, EAF, the electronic application form, the PDF one, is also using OMS data and RMS and SMS data. EUDRA GMDP, UPD, and also XEVMPD is already using data from these services that is submitted by industry. So here, whatever you have in SMS, OMS, and RMS, and also how this data is mapped, is affecting what industry will see in XEVMPD, in PMS, and also in other solutions as you have here. So we have industry submitting data to the different services of SPOR. We also have industry submitting data to XEVMPD. And from XEVMPD, we have different systems that are consuming this information. So for example, we have CTIS for development products. We have EV-human and the pharmacovigilance fees consuming from the authorized medicinal products. And all this data and all these systems are also consumed by industry and MCAs. Then from XEVMPD, we also have the PMS that is consuming this data. And through the PMS API, industry and NCAs can have access to this data. Again, from the PMS API, we have IRIS that is consuming our data. And from IRIS, we have the RPM, we have parallel distribution, we have inspections, ESMP, ASU. We have a lot of systems and a lot of processes that are consuming the data from IRIS. And also, industry and NCAs are consuming the data from there. And then the PLM portal is consuming the data from IRIS. So in the PLM portal, we have the product UI, we have the web-based variation form, and we have EPI consuming data from IRIS. And also industry and NCAs have already access to the PLM portal. So you can see here that the data that you are submitting to XEVMPD is feeding a lot of systems already. So not only CTIS and the pharmacovigilance fees, but also the PMS API, the IRIS, and also the PLM portal. So you can see the importance of XEVMPD and how you are submitting your data. A couple of notes here below. So industry should request substance and organizations ahead of any application or any XEVMPD submissions, because if those substances or those organizations are not in SMS or OMS, then you won't be able to perform a successful submission to XEVMPD. PMS, for the moment, cannot be used to update data. So only if an update is required, then you need to perform a submission to XEVMPD to update this information. And then industry and NCAs are interacting, as you can see in this diagram, with the different EU systems and applications where SPOR data is used. So I think this is a very important slide where you can see how important the data that you are submitting to XEVMPD, but also to SMS, RMS, and OMS is, because we are feeding a lot of systems with this information. So what does it mean for you and XEVMPD? So medicinal products that are submitted to XEVMPD, as I have said before, are available in the product UI and also in the PMS API. MA holders and also MCAs can access their products and the product data that we have through the PMS API and also through the product UI. You have the registration process explained in Chapter 1 of the EUIG. So if you want to get access either to the PMS API or to the product UI, you can go there and we have a step-by-step guidance on how to request the access. Also, the web-based variation form, as I explained, is using PMS products. So the web-based variation form can already be used for centrally authorized products, and it will be available soon for non-centrally authorized products. So MRPs, DCPs, and pure national products. EAF team will send a notification. In fact, I think they have already done it. I think it was this week or by the end of last week. They sent a notification stating that now in a couple of days, the non-cap products will also be available in the variation form. Who else is consuming data from PMAs and therefore from XEVMPD is ESMP. So ESMP is consuming data from PMS, and you need, what we are asking you here is that you need to make sure that the requirements from XEVMPD on how to submit pack sizes are followed. I will make this request a bit more specific later, but in chapter 3.2, we have updated this chapter to explain how pack sizes should be submitted to XEVMPD in order to support ESMP. Another point on what does it mean for you is that XEVMPD submissions are still mandatory, and this is the only way that we can keep PMS updated. So direct submissions to PMS are not allowed for the moment. XEVMPD is still a requirement. You need to maintain your data. You need to submit your data to XEVMPD because this is the only way that we can keep PMS and the data up to date. We still keep the same long-term goal as we have explained in different webinars. We want to replace XEVMPD submissions with direct submissions to PMS for CAPs and non-CAPs. But this is a long-term goal that we have. Again, for the moment, you need to submit all your products and updates through XEVMPD. Some important actions that we have for marketing authorization holders. So first of all, in order to support EAF, you are required to submit any product that might be used on the variation form. So if you want to use the web-based variation form and your product is not in XEVMPD, you will not be able to use it. Therefore, for example, for herbal and homeopathics products that are out of the scope of XEVMPD, if you want to use the web-based EAF for those products, you need to submit them to XEVMPD. Then we also have the submissions of MRPs and DCPs that are approved in the reference member state, but are still under evaluation in the concerned member states. This will be allowed in Q1 2025. This is a very specific use case for the variation form, where a variation can be submitted for records that have been approved in the reference member state, but not in the concerned member state. And this is a very specific use case for MRPs and DCPs. So we will allow the submission of those records in Q1 2025. An important point to make here, pending pure NAPs should not be submitted to XEVMPD because these products are not authorized and variations are not allowed for pure NAPs that are under evaluation. Nevertheless, if you have a pure national product that is authorized, you need to submit this information to XEVMPD, and therefore this pure NAP will be available in the web-based EAF. So there is a difference between the pending MRPs and DCPs and the pending NAPs. And I think in previous webinar there was a confusion, and here you have the concrete explanation which is allowed and what is not allowed. Then also what you need to do is you need to check that the non-CAPs have been migrated correctly in PMS, so you don't have issues when trying to submit a variation. So you can check that your products are there, that also the structure is correct, that the pack sizes are also correct in PMS. This is in relation to EAF, but we also need have some actions for marketing authorization holders in relation to ESMP. So as we explained before, and in different webinars, we have also given this explanation. You need to submit pack sizes for products that are under the union list of critical medicines before the 31st of January 2025. You have all the instructions on how to do this. You have a diagram that you can follow depending on the type of product that you have in chapter 3.2. And there was also a webinar, you have here the link, on pack size submission. So it is also explained there how to submit this information. And just a couple of notes. You need to include meaningful information on the package description. So if you have national IDs that identify specific pack sizes, you can include this information there. That will help us a lot with the mapping exercise that I explained that we are doing for NCAs, but that will also help you a lot later to identify a specific pack size because you will see this national ID. As a general rule, for those products where you have been submitting multiple pack sizes in the same EV code, what you need to do is you need to update this specific EV code and include the lowest pack size. So for example, the one for 8 tablets, and then you insert the rest of the pack sizes. So for example, the 14 and the 26 tablets, you insert them as new. But again, all the information we have chapter 3.2, and we also have this webinar where we were there for almost 2 hours explaining step by step how to submit this information. Then another action for MA holders. For medicinal products that are authorized in countries with several official languages. So for example, it's Belgium, Finland, and Luxembourg, you need to have the same package description, which means the same language and the same information for these packages, because this will allow us to merge EV codes that are under the same packaged medicinal product. This is an activity that we want to start doing in Q1 2025. Again, all this information is in the chapter 3.2 and also in the webinar. So if you have any doubt, you can review the webinar because everything is explained there. And just an additional action that has nothing to do with XEVMPD, but we wanted to point it out here. Please start compiling your manufacturers and manufacturing business operations for your non-CAP products that are falling under the union list of critical medicines, because you will have to submit this information through the product UI or the PMS API in 2025. So if you already have this information, you will need to spend less effort than when the submission is ready. And last but not least, we want you to focus on the enhancement of data quality of your product. So there are a couple of actions for you. First of all, and this has already been explained in the SMS webinar, you need to avoid referencing substances with the SBG flag 0 in any new or existing product record in XEVMPD. There is this slide 20 on the SMS webinar presentation where you can find all the information. Also, you need to avoid referencing terms that are nullified in new products or updates in XEVMPD. And in this case, you have the RMS webinar for additional information. You can go to the presentation and look for slide 44, where we have all this information. Then you need to enter the MA holder details in XEVMPD as per OMS. If needed, you can include the log ID in the comment field on the marketing authorization holder entity. Again, last but not least, we are actually seeing that more and more companies are reviewing the third acknowledgement, but please keep doing this. And also the follow-up communications emails that we send to the QPPP, because sometimes we are not able to validate a product because there is missing information or something is wrong. So please keep an eye on these follow-up communications. One additional remark here: if you don't agree with the changes that we have performed in your product, and these changes are reflected in the third acknowledgement, you can raise a ticket with your objections. Okay, I don't agree with these changes because of this or that reason. And an additional point here: if those changes that we are performing to your product are impacting your PMS product. So, for example, there is a new product generated in PMS due to the change that we have done, or something like this, we would like you to indicate this in the ticket, because this way we can evaluate what is happening. We can try to check also PMS, and we will be able to analyze this further. So it is important for us if you can make this comment. So with this point, we have arrived to the break. I think we can have 10 minutes break. So we will come back at 11:15. Okay, it's 11:15. Hope you can hear me well. And we will continue with the webinar. And in this case, we will be presenting. Let me change the slide. In this case, we will focus on the XEVMPD status update. And now my colleague Veronica Baker will present those slides.
Good morning, everybody. I will be providing you with a brief overview of the activities that we completed in the last quarter, and also provide some brief information regarding the activities that will be taking place in Q4 of this year, Q1 and Q2 of the next year. As you might be aware, we have started to perform the validation of new AMP entries, which were submitted by you, marketing authorization holders, due to the pack size additions. I will be providing some information on the next slide. What we have also started to do in this quarter is to start revision and see if we can improve the current authorized medicinal product validation process. Again, more information is coming on the next slide. And as my colleague Marcos already mentioned in some details, we have been performing an XEVMPD and PMS mapping services, which we are providing to national competent authorities that requested it. With regards to XEVMPD data quality, we have started to perform more detailed reviews of the medicinal product entries in XEVMPD in order to support PMS migration. Again, more detailed information is upcoming. What we will also be doing in this quarter, that means in Q4, with regards to XEVMPD documentation, we will be revising and updating the published Article 57 documents, which we understand is a little bit outdated at this point. So it is going to be under revision, and we're hoping to publish an updated version towards the beginning of the next year. As for XEVMPD awareness and visibility, as you know, we are running our SPOR webinar this week. There will be also another SPOR update webinars in Q1 and Q2 of next year. What I would like to highlight for your attention, however, is the SPOR customer satisfaction survey, which we will be running shortly. I believe it's going to happen this month. We would really encourage you to participate in this survey, because your feedback is very important to us, and it will also help us to adjust the planned activities that we have for the next year. So if you could all, when you receive the email, please have a look at the survey and spend a few minutes in responding. That would be much appreciated. With regards data modernization and information management, we are currently assessing and reviewing the XEVMPD data entry tool or user interface, which is called EVWeb, to see if we could perform a possible technical upgrade. Again, I will provide further information on the next slides. And as you might remember, I believe it was last year or at the beginning of the year, we have already advertised that we will make a new authorization status value available in the XEVMPD. This is now planned for Q1, I believe, 2025. Again, I will provide further information. With regards to the validation of the new AMP entries due to the pack size additions, you already started, or some companies already started to submit more records where each record corresponds to only one pack size for that particular product. So we obviously had to up our validation. which is now happening, or from the beginning of this year, is now happening on a weekly basis. What does it mean for you? Your products are validated more frequently. We also are trying to validate them in a shorter time. This means that you are getting more acknowledgement. The QPPBs are contacted more often. We appreciate the work that you are doing. And also, we are trying to make sure that the data that we have in the XEVMPD are correct and most up to date and synchronized in order to support PMS migration. This is very closely related to the data quality review to support PMS migration in general. Again, we are checking some key fields in the XEVMPD product entries that impact the XEVMPD to PMS migration, such as the authorization number, country, etc. We also performing improvements to the terms and, as you know, also substances used in the product entries. This is in order to minimize migration issues and risk that the product may not be available for IRIS, EAF, ESMP, etc. With regards to highlights of what will be done in the next quarter, so as I mentioned before, we are currently revising the validation, AMP validation process in use. This is due to the increased volume of the product data that is submitted in the XEVMPD by you. We also want to ensure that there is a consistency in the validation of product records, which are from the same cluster. We will be trying to identify any improvements if we also assessing if we can use any currently available tools or if there could be new tools that we could use to support this validation. This is something that we hoping to improve by Q2 2025. With regards to XEVMPD and PMS mapping services to NCAs, my colleague Marcos already provided quite detailed information regarding this, so I don't think I will be repeating exactly what you can see on this slide. More information will be, however, provided with regards to review of the current XEVMPD user interface. As you know, at the moment, users that are using the XEVMPD data entry tool, which is called EVWeb, is based on a very outdated technology. Also, you need to have certain tools to access it. So you need to download ActiveX, you need to use either Edge or Chrome with the IE tab extension. We have been listening to stakeholders saying that companies don't always allow you to download ActiveX, which is software that is provided by the EMA. Use of IE tab is not ideal. So what we are trying to do, we're currently looking into any other ways how we could possibly improve access to this tool without having any major impact on you, the current users. So there would be no need to retrain you. There would be no loss in functionality. There would be the same secure access, look and feel, etc. So the benefit for you, ideally, if we do find this solution, would be that there's easy access for all of the users. It's a browser-based solution. There would be no need for ActiveX, no need for IETAB. It's at the moment, we're at the very early stage of the assessment. This will have absolutely no impact on the XEVPRM submissions by gateway users. This would be something that would only affect, hopefully in a very minor way, XEVMPD data entry tool users. So instead of logging into the XEVMPD as it currently stands, whilst you have ActiveX downloaded on your laptop, whilst you also use IETAB extension, you would be able to access XEVMPD without this. So please bear with us. When we actually have more details related to this, we will naturally communicate it with you. And with regards to the new authorization status value in XEVMPD, this is to support submissions of MRPs and DCPs still under evaluation in the concerned member states in the XEVMPD. This does not affect nationally authorized medicinal products as such. So this new value pending national phase will be available in the XEVMPD in Q1 2025. We will update Chapter 3.2 in order to provide further information how and when this new value should be used, either by the end of this year, or the aim is to have this updated version published by the end of this year. If not, then definitely in Q1 2025. And I believe the last but not least slides, which is some very quick highlights to you. As what has changed, we have started more frequent validation of the product entries based on the pack sizes in order to support PMS migration. Ongoing work, as I mentioned, we are also looking into improving of the current validation process in use to make sure that the AMPs are validated faster and in clusters, so the information for all the products is consistent for all of them. We also review an XEVMPD related documentation and web pages. Future changes, XEVMPD PMS mapping services will be provided to NCAs that will request this. As I mentioned before, we are reviewing and assessing the current XEVMPD user interface and any possible technical upgrade that could be performed. And a new valid pending national phase marketing authorization status will be available in the XEVMPD from Q1 or in Q1 2025. Just a quick reminder for marketing authorization holders, the Windsor framework is coming into force from 1st of January 2025. This will impact centrally authorized medicinal products only. So as you know, at the moment, centrally authorized medicinal products are valid in the EU, EEA, and by EU, we also mean Northern Ireland. So you don't have to provide any additional records for a medicinal product authorized through the centrally authorized procedure to notify us that the medicinal product is also valid in Northern Ireland. What's changing from 1st January 2025? If you reference EU as the country of authorization in a centrally authorized product record, this will no longer include Northern Ireland. So if after the date when Windsor framework comes into force, which is foreseen for the 1st January 2025, a medicinal product that is already approved by the Commission under a centrally approved procedure is also additionally granted an equivalent marketing authorization by the MHRA in the UK in accordance to UK authorization procedures, then it will be voluntary for you to submit the information about this medicinal product in the XEVMPD. If you will provide this product information on voluntary basis in the XEVMPD, then you should reference the country code GB, in which corresponds to United Kingdom, in the country of authorization, and reference a non-authorization procedure in that product record. Okay, so if you want to have a medicinal product which is already approved by the Commission in EU EEA, also approved in United Kingdom or Northern Ireland, you will have to apply for marketing authorization at national level by the MHRA in the UK. And I believe that's the end.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So we are just getting into the end of the webinar, and we want to share some key takeaways and conclusions. So, which are the conclusions of this webinar? So we have explained the submission requirements for marketing authorization holders and how this authorized medicinal product data is currently managed in XEVMPD. We also provided a status update about the authorized medicinal product validation process that we are reviewing, also the mapping services to national competent authorities, and also the review of the user interface for EVWeb. We have also explained how the data from XEVMPD is consumed by different systems such as PMS, the web-based variation form, and ESMP, and which are the actions for marketing authorization holders to support these projects. We have also highlighted the actions that you should complete. So you can submit herbal and homeopathic products, and also from Q1 2025, the pending MRPs and DCPs in XEVMPD, so you can use them in the web-based variation form. We have also asked you to check that the non-centrally authorized products have been migrated correctly in PMS. Before the 31st of January 2025, you need to submit the different pack sizes for all your products that fall under the union list of critical medicines, and you need to use the same package description in the same language for products on multilingual countries. Also, we have explained that you should avoid referencing substances with the SVG flag 0 and terms to be notified in any new or existing product record in XEVMPD. And again, keep reviewing or start reviewing, if you are not doing it, your third acknowledgement and communication from EMA. So you can perform the necessary updates or review the updates that we are doing as part of the validation process. So with all this information, it's time to see if you have understood what we have shared during this webinar. So as we are doing this week after every webinar, we are performing a quiz. We are launching a quiz. So let me switch to this screen. I hope you can see it. And we will give you a couple of a minute or so to start with the quiz. So please, you can either scan the QR code or join to slido.com with this hashtag. Let's wait for maybe a minute so we get more participants and we see who has understood correctly everything that we have presented. So I'll give you a minute to register. Okay, I think we can start. We almost have 200 participants on the quiz. So I think we can start with the first question. So MA holders are required to notify changes related to the amendments of the marketing authorization within 15 calendar days or 30 calendar days. So which would be the correct answer? Okay, so most of you answered correctly is 30 calendar days for amendments. The 15 calendar days is for new authorized medicinal products. So for inserts, you have 15 calendar days. So well done. We can see, I think, who is in the first position. So Sarah for the moment, but it's a tie between three people. So we can continue with the next question. Which is, as a gateway submitter, when I receive the third acknowledgement, so it's the validation related one, I am supposed to, you need to review it and amend the data in your internal database if needed, or you can just ignore the third acknowledgement and you don't have to do anything with this message that we are sending to you after the validation of the record. I hope everybody replies correctly. And we have obviously 97% answered correctly. So it is very important that you review this third acknowledgement. And if you agree with the changes that we have performed and you are a gateway submitter, you need to change also or perform the same changes in your database. Otherwise, when you submit your next update or your next message to XEVMPD, you will still be submitting the data that you had before, and then our changes will not be kept in the product. So that is very important. If you are a gateway submitter, please review the third acknowledgement and apply the same changes that we have done. So let's see how the poll is. So Sarah, congratulations, you are still the leader. Let's see on the next question. And the next question is, if a standard ATC code is missing in XEVMPD, then the MA holder should insert it in the XEVMPD, just sending an XEVPRM for this ATC code, or you need to send a request to include this new ATC code in XEVMPD via an RMS change request. So it's either you send the ATC code in XEVMPD or you ask our RMS colleagues to do so. The answer is that you need to raise a change request in RMS because now RMS and XEVMPD are connected, so every new term that you need in XEVMPD should be created first in RMS, and therefore you need to send a change request. Let's see how the poll is. Sada, congratulations, you are still the leader. And let's go for the fourth question. So to amend my authorized medicinal product data in the product UI and the PMS API, I should update the authorized medicinal product record in XEVMPD, or I need to contact the PMS team and request this product update. What can you do if you want to update your data or amend the data in PMS? Okay, so yes, there are no direct submissions to PMS yet. XEVMPD is the only way to keep PMS data updated. So XEVMPD data is pushed to PMS, so if there is any update to be done, then it has to be done through XEVMPD. Let's see the poll. Oh, there's a change where there is a tie between RK and Sada. So we have the last question to break this tie. And the last question is, MA holders are required to submit information for medicinal products at pack size level by 31st of January 2025. At least 4 medicinal products that are linked to the union list of critical medicines, or all the medicinal products for which they hold a marketing authorization. Let's see. So the answer is the first one, mandatory. So you are required to submit your pack sizes for the products that are falling under the union list of critical medicines. And it's only optional if you want to do it for your whole portfolio. So yeah, the correct answer was the first one. And let's see how the poll ended. So, well, it's actually a tie between Sarah and RK. So congratulations to both of you. Yeah, you can get your certification on XEVMPD if you don't have it already. And with this, I think we can start with the Q&A session. So first question is there a way to know if PMS is fed from a QC version of the product in Article 57 or not, given the PMS refresh versus QC time? This process tends to push the local SMPC data definition instead of the dossier definition, causing variations in the composition indication. So PMS is fed by the last version of the data that we have in XEVMPD. So as soon as you submit your product in XEVMPD, then this data is pushed to PMS. When we perform the validation or we perform the QC, If any change is performed, then these changes are also pushed to PMS. Then if you submit another update, again, this data is pushed to PMS. And whenever we do the QC of this version, then we also receive this information in PMS. Okay.
Marcos,
yes,
can you filter by start questions, please?
Yes, I will do so. Sorry. Okay, sorry for that. Let's keep with the next question is how data shared between XEVMPD and PMS are validated. For example, in the composition, if the composition is sent to XEVMPD according to Module 3 document, IDMP, but then if the composition gets validated against SMPC, there will be validation issues. Should data be sent according to SMPC or as stated in Module 3 documents? So, as I have explained during the webinar, XEVMPD is still the way to get data into PMS. Therefore, the rules that we have established for XEVMPD are the ones that are valid. That means that the data should be submitted as stated in the SMPC or equivalent at the data that is in the SMPC. Because the only way that we have to validate XEVMPD is through the SMPC. That's why we need you to submit this information as stated in the SMPC. In the future, there will be a discussion whenever we change the submission to PMS, whether we follow SMPC or Module 3. But for the moment, XEVMPD is the only way to get data in PMS, and you need to follow those business rules. Is there a way to, okay, I have already replied to this question, so we can go to the next one. MHRA has instructed MA holders to update XI EV codes in Article 57 with UK PSMF and UK QPPV details. However, EMA is saying there is no impact to current requirements. Can you please clarify what changes are needed in January 2025 due to the Windsor framework? So, Veronica?
So again, the Windsor framework only affects centrally authorized products. Okay, if at the moment you are referencing XI as a country of authorization in medicinal product record in the XEVMPD, it also has to reference either nationally authorized, mutual recognition, or decentralized procedure. It should not reference centrally approved, centrally authorized procedure. If it does, then the submission is not correct. If the country code is XI, the authorization procedure must be one of the EU national procedure, which is not a centrally authorized procedure. And the QPPV of those products must be based in the EU EEA or in Northern Ireland if the company does not have a QPPV already available and established in EU or EEA. You do not have any centrally authorized products referencing the country code XI in the XEVMPD at the moment, or you shouldn't have. If you are going to be submitting information on medicinal products authorized in Northern Ireland via a procedure that is national procedure in the UK from 1st of January 2025, you will have to reference GB as the country of authorization, non-EU procedure, and in that case, the QPPV should be or can be based in the UK.
Okay, I think we also have a document, right?
There is also a dedicated Q&A document on the EMA webpage. If unsure, you can contact us through the EMA service desk and we will provide you with the dedicated answer. We cannot comment on how the MHRA will be authorizing the medicines that are already available in the EU and EEA under the centrally authorized procedure, but we can provide some information related to the non-EU procedure products.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. So you just mentioned that the Excel with all products in XEVMPD will be no longer published, but a dynamic report will be used. From the experience that we have, the data from these dynamic reports cannot be exported. if I want to process the list of products, how would I do that in the future? So what I said is that we are planning to replace the publication of the Excel with a dynamic report, but we have not done it yet. We are still defining the report. We need to build it. And for sure, we will allow the export of this information because we need to grant access to this data and that people can download it. So we will make sure that you are able to download the data as if it was an Excel and the one that we are already publishing. But for the moment, we are not decommissioning the publication of this Excel. It will remain there, at least for this year, and we will see next year if we are able to replace it by a dynamic report. But you will be notified, and we will make sure that you are able to download it. Okay, given the statement on slide 24 about the transparency of product data mapping efforts performed by the EMA and national competent authorities, please provide insights on how MA holders as product data owners can view and potentially partner to these activities looking ahead. Okay, we will take this comment into account, but in principle, what we are just doing is helping MCAs to map their national database with the packages and the product that we have in PMS. So I'm not sure how industry can be involved in this exercise, but we will take it into account, and if anything has to be done, then we will let you know and involve you if needed. Okay. I think this one was already answered, the one from Elizabeth, so I go to the next one. MCAs often delay notification of the authorization to marketing authorization holders. Therefore, saying that XEVMPD changes are due 15 days, 30 days after authorization is not reasonable. It must be considered 15, 30 days from when MA holders are made aware of the authorization. So in fact, this is the case when you receive the authorization, for example, is when the clock starts. You should have received the letter of authorization or the letter of authorization of the change, and there is where the 15 or 30 calendar days start. There is more information on that on chapter 3.2 with clear diagrams and explanation on when the clock starts. And it's when you receive, in fact, the notification or the authorization. Okay. How will the splitting of pack sizes be validated? During the split, one size remains with update, but the rest will have insert operation type. Will there be validation issues for products with insert operation type, or those should be the same as the updated size and validation is ignored? So we have had an interesting conversation with the PMS SMEs about this topic. In principle, the new pack sizes that you include should be a duplicate of the record that you submitted in the past, referencing multiple pack sizes. But one important thing is this record, the former record that was originally submitted with multiple pack sizes, should be correct. So the active substance should be the same as the one in the SMPC, the ATC code, the dose form, everything should be as in the SMPC. Therefore, then when we receive all the new pack sizes, we validate them together. So we make sure that at least those pack sizes that we have received receive the same changes if any change is required. What we are missing and what we will look into that is we are not associating this to the old or former EV code that was referring to all the pack sizes. So that is something that we need to revisit, and that's why Veronica explained that we are checking how to improve this validation process. So also the former EV code is validated and the same changes are applied. Would EMA consider clarifying terminology for submitting a structured pack size to contain records? It does lead to confusion and discussions about XEVMPD packaged medicinal product records versus PMS structured data elements pack size. So I think we have explained this, but of course, this quarter we will have a webinar for the submission of this structured pack size data and pack sizes to explain what has to be discussed. But there is a difference between pack sizes. These are new records in XEVMPD. And the other thing is the structured data on pack sizes, which are just two fields to be submitted to PMS. But we will check and make sure that we clarify this so there are no confusions or misunderstanding on the industry side. Why there is capping off only 5 users from each organization from XEVMPD knowledge assessment test, thus allowing all will not increase compliance and data quality as well benefiting end users?
So I can respond to this one. So first of all, please note that the notification is required from one person during the registration process of the organization with vigilance for medicinal product reporting. The notification is not required for any other reason. It's just showing us that one person from the company has attended the training and has the knowledge to submit medicinal product records in XEVMPD correctly. There is absolutely no cap for the virtual training course, which is organized by the DIA. The cap is on the e-learning training provided by the EMA. As you know, this is a free training. Or the knowledge evaluation is because you're self-studying, and then you request us to perform the knowledge evaluation in order to certify you and provide you with the notification. If we had to register for this e-learning, every user, we would just simply not have the capacity to process this large volume of users. This is also the reason. Don't forget that the person who has the knowledge evaluation can actually and should train others in the organization. You should not need the knowledge evaluation for any other reason during the process, unless you register in another organization in vigilance for medicinal product reporting.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. Our Chapter 3 process for the e-submission of medicinal product information and for data quality assurance still planned to be published in Q4? And if so, can EMA kindly confirm when this can be expected? So we will release, we are planning to release a new version of Chapter 3 because there is a new process, which is this enrichment process of manufacturers, structured data on pack sizes, etc. So we are planning to release this. We don't have expected date, but I suppose it will be by the end of the year due to the capacity and other priorities that we have. So I guess it will be around December. And for the moment, we don't have anything for Chapter 4, the data quality assurance, because we are still performing this on XEVMPD. But Chapter 3, it will be released hopefully in December. Okay, is there any update which national code shall be used with regards to the pack sizes for products authorized in Germany? I think there is a very specific question, and I would say no for the moment, but I will come back to this question. I will reply in a slide and maybe update the presentation if needed, because we can contact the German NCA. But I don't have additional information at the moment for this. Otherwise, if there is no national code for this, then you can just submit your pack sizes without making reference to this national ID, because I'm not sure if actually Germany has any national ID on pack sizes, but I will try to confirm this information. Can you please confirm that it will be possible to enter the manufacturer information manually via the product UI? Yes, the product UI in the PLM portal will be the way to submit manufacturers and structured data on pack sizes. And also we are planning to open the PMS API. So also companies who want to submit directly to PMS this information will be able to do it as well. Then this one has also been answered. So for one product with 2 packages with 3 national languages, currently there are 3 EV codes. Now with the guideline update, should we split each? In such case, we will have 6 EV codes. That is correct. You will have, as you have 3 national languages, you have 3 EV codes because we consider each EV code as a package in PMS. But during this webinar and also during the pack size submission webinar that we had in July, I ask you to include the same information for each of those pack sizes in the same language, same information, because from Q1, we have a user story that we will merge those EV codes that belong to the same pack size. So that's why we are asking you to review your submissions for those products where we have more than 1 language, include the same information, and this information is the one that we will use to merge. So in this case, in one product with 2 packages, but in 3 languages, you will only have 2 packages, but 6 EV code linked to those 2 packages. So the correct structure will appear in PMS. When is the national code list being published to support MA holders with populating this in packs description to help identifying packages better, especially with common marketing authorization numbers? It's already published. It's in the presentation of the webinar of pack size submissions. It is also referred in the updated version that we released in summer for chapter 3.2. So the information is there since, I think it was end of July. So you can go there and check the information. Having in mind the amendments in the Windsor framework starting 2025, what is the timeline to add UK PSMFL locations in XEVMPD?
So again, if you will be submitted on a voluntary basis information about medicinal products authorized by the MHRA in the UK via national procedure, and I'm talking about product that is already authorized in the EU EEA in the centrally authorized procedure, then when you're making this voluntary submission, you should also submit the UK PMS-based location because you will be referencing, I presume, this UK-based PMS location in the voluntary XEVMPD record.
Okay.
Colleagues, I think we need to pause now. So I'd like to start by thanking everybody for joining this webinar. I understand we still have a lot of unanswered questions, and I'm afraid we won't have time to address them all orally today. So I apologize for that, but please bear with us. We've received over 100 questions so far. We tried to address them in writing, but as you might see, some of the questions, the answers that the presenters just gave you are a bit elaborate. So it's not a quick 2 seconds answer. You need to provide a little bit of context, and sometimes we also need to ask further information to really understand the question. So please bear with us. We also saw a pattern of repeated questions and a lot of them on PMS. So we will be looking into that to provide information first and foremost in the webinar that's upcoming, like Marco said, still in this quarter on packages and manufacturers information. We will be looking at these questions to see where we can improve our guidance and also refishing a few of these questions for our frequently asked questions documents on XEVMPD and on PMS. So please bear with us. If we haven't covered the question, is not really because we're trying to avoid questions, is that sometimes the presenters are really the best suited persons, and sometimes the answer is not a quick yes and no 2 words answer. But we will process this very carefully and try to get information out on these topics. I thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the rest of the webinars throughout the rest of the week. We still have one more tomorrow on XEVMPD for sponsors and one on Monday for a technical audience on SPOR. And before you leave, maybe that I should have started with that. If you quickly fill in a survey to let us know what you thought about the webinar and if there's any aspect that you think we can improve. I know for a fact you're going to say we need more time for questions, we need more questions, but we simply do not have the capacity to address the questions of 600 users in a very short period of time. So please bear with us. We're doing the best we can with the questions. And thank you very much. Looking forward to see you tomorrow.